What's up, Multiverse? Dr. Dave here. Welcome to the Geek Lounge. So this past weekend, I went to AnimeCon UK where I did add a few more signed Funko Pops into the collection. Though I did also want to share my thoughts with you guys on AnimeCon UK, tell you a little bit of story about my journey there, my journey back home. Suffice to say, it wasn't a great day. Having said that, I do appreciate time is money, and if you guys wanted to skip ahead to see what I got signed, I'll pop a timestamp right there. So AnimeCon UK is a small and growing con here in the UK. If it wasn't obvious, they had their first show in Birmingham last year, they then had a London show, I think it was in February of this year, and then the third show was once again in Birmingham this past weekend. So I only tend to normally go for the one day. It just doesn't make sense for me personally to go for the entire weekend. I know it may be different for other people, you know, we all have different reasons why we attend Comic-Cons. And so my preference is always to attend on the Sunday as opposed to the Saturday because it's a lot less busy. However, I did not have the chance this time round because there were tons of train cancellations. I believe there was like maintenance or engineering works as they call it taking place on the Sunday. So I live in London and travel up to Birmingham is normally very easy. If you get the fast train it's about an hour, if you get the slightly slower train it's like 2 hours, but you have no changes. So going on the Sunday with like 3 or 4 changes, probably like a 2+ hour journey, no thank you. So that left me with Saturday being the only option, so I got up early, which is never good for me either, guys. I'm a bit of a night owl, but you do what you got to do for Comic-Con, right? So I went to my local station because then I have to go like 6 or 7 stops to a mainline station and then catch the train up to Birmingham. And although there were some engineering works taking place on the London Overground and Underground on the Saturday, my area was not affected. However, once I got to the station, the train boards were not working. There were like no trains coming. No one knew what was going on. I was like, oh God, here we go. I'm going to miss my train up to Birmingham. Thankfully, though, I was able to get an alternate train to the mainline station that I needed to get to, and it left me with about 3 or 4 minutes to get to the platform for my other train. However, that train was cancelled. Apparently there was not enough staff members. So I went from having that tiny bit of stress at my local station to having my main train cancelled at the mainline station. And yes, that left me pretty pissed off, guys, because I had the train booked for 8:30, the fast train I might add. From where I travel from, I can normally get up to Birmingham in I think it's 1 hour and 5 minutes is the duration of the journey, as long as there's no delays on the way. And that would have got me into Birmingham International Station at just gone 9:30. Now the NEC is actually connected to Birmingham International Station by a skywalk, and it's literally like, I want to say a 7 to 8 minute walk to the hall, because AnimeCon UK was actually in halls number 1 and 2, so it was pretty close to the skywalk. And so the con itself opens up at 10 AM, so I thought, you know what, this train is perfect. I paid a little bit more money for the fast train, and so yeah, to have it cancelled, as I said again, I started to get pretty pissed. Because those trains are only every hour, and I wasn't going to sit there for an hour and wait till the next train. There was then an alternate train, which is the slower one. It stops at many more stations, and I think takes about an hour and 50 minutes or so. So I took that one, which was about 10, 11, 12 minutes after what was my scheduled train time, and I eventually got into Birmingham International, I think maybe 10:40, 10:45, something like that. And so I therefore got to the con at 11 AM, 1 hour after it opened up, and it was already fairly busy. I wouldn't say crazy busy, but one of the things that really annoyed me about AnimeCon UK this year, guys, their use of space. And so as I mentioned before, they had halls 1 and 2 built. Now hall 2 was just purely for the queuing. You know, to be honest, maybe the NEC had asked them to do that, I don't know, so I don't really want to comment on that too much. But then when you got into hall 1, it's a fairly big hall to be honest, but they just did not utilize the space well at all. It was so cramped, and I'm like walking around all the stalls. Don't get me wrong, some really cool stalls, artist alley, everyone like selling their wares and such, as I always say. Not many Funko Pop vendors, like some of my friends had pulled out. I just don't think they really made enough sales there. DJ collectibles were there though, which was pretty cool. I sadly didn't get to say hello. They were pretty busy when I passed by, and then I ended up just being mega busy queuing all day, but I'll get to that in just a second. And so yeah, I'm walking around thinking, where on earth are the guests siding? Normally they're up against some back wall or something, and then I eventually find them, and I kid you not, guys, I don't even know how to describe it. It just was honestly one of the worst guest signing setups I've ever seen. So they had all these backing boards made up with all of the guest images on there, so you knew who was at what table. Pretty standard for any con, but they were just like in the middle of the hall, and then there was like, I want to say 20 or 30 meters of space in behind, whereas then where everyone is queuing, I mean, if I can find some images on social media, I'll share them with you guys. It was honestly just baffling because literally, like, say, this is the backing board, right? here's the table where the guest is, and then here's where everyone's queuing. You literally had like 6 or 7 meters before you then got to the stalls, the artist alley. You could queue like 10 people before you're then causing issues with like all of the traffic going back and forth. And then when they had guests like Alejandro Saab and Zeno Robinson, who were very, very popular, you had Alejandro Saab. He was actually on the end, and then Zeno Robinson was right next to him. So they already had the two most popular guests like next to each other, which was a bit silly. It caused like massive congestion in this area. But Alejandro Saab's queue then kind of just went like that. So it went like all the way around the back. As I said, that 20, 30 meters of space in behind where there was literally nothing. I just don't understand why that was not utilized. They could have either turned the guest tables round and had people queuing that way, or they could have just pushed the whole thing back and would have just had much more space for people to queue. It was just a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. Queues were kind of going diagonal. They weren't really controlling things very well. Zeno Robinson's queue literally kind of went like that. And then he started taking over, well, not him personally, the guests that were trying to see him, or I should say the congoers who were trying to see him, pardon me, were then almost like taking over someone else's table. And this was the funny thing. So I was standing in Jamie Marchie's queue, and I'll explain a bit like my interactions with the guests and things in just a moment when I share with you guys what I got signed. So I was standing in her queue, and I was watching this woman manage Zeno Robinson's queue, and for the most part, she was managing it fairly well, telling people, you know, the queue is capped, come back in like 30, 45 minutes, whatever. And then the management team, and I know they're the management team because I've seen them before. You've got like the head honcho American dude, and then I think the woman who is like maybe the head of crew or something like that. They were kind of both talking to, I don't know, I'd never seen this guy before. I assume he was like maybe one of the talent managers or something, because they were behind one of the tables, and they were all having a discussion. And then this woman who was managing Zena Robinson's queue came over and said, look, it's my break time, I'm going off. And yeah, all good. So she went off, and then they just did nothing, and then all these people came and joined Zeno Robinson's queue within 10 minutes, and I'm just watching the queue grow once again, taking over that other guest table. I can't remember her name. I'm pretty sure she was a Baldur's Gate 3 voice. In fact, you know what? I think it was the two Baldur's Gate 3 voice actors that they had there, because then eventually they started to almost creep in towards a second guest table, and then eventually, like, I want to say 20, 30 minutes later, some other dude arrived and told everyone, look, you're going to have to go and come back because you're taking over this person's table. Guys, it was just so incredibly messy. And so when Alejandro and Zeno had their breaks, it may have also been when Alejandro had his panel, they brought out like the metal guardrails and they then sort of stuck them in front to essentially stop people from queuing. But people were already queuing for these guests, and so they just essentially pushed people out into the like oncoming traffic. I just had no words. It was really annoying me. Why the 20, 30 meters of space in behind? Like, I started to think, surely at the NEC you're paying for the entire hall, right? You're not surely paying for like square footage within the hall itself. So what was with the whole area? Again, I'm repeating myself, 20 or 30 meters of nothingness, no chairs, no tables. There was like an eatery, there were toilets back there, but you could have still utilized like 15 to 20 meters and still had quite a lot of space there and just had more people for queuing. I mean, again, guys, I'm kind of rambling and ranting. It was just, I don't really even have the words for it. It was just poor management, in my opinion. Look, I'm not an events organizer by any of the stretch of the imagination, so, you know, maybe there were other things going on, but it seemed to me like they underestimated things. I wasn't the only one. There were tons of people who were saying, yeah, this just seems so poorly managed. Like, it was so much better last year, and the con was a bit smaller, so I don't know if they kind of underestimated numbers, but, you know, the weekend tickets, the VIP tickets had all sold out, so I don't know, guys. Look, I hate to be a negative Nancy. I always want to keep things positive here on the channel, but yeah, AnimeCon, I doubt anyone's watching from there, but just do better, guys. Organize better, because yeah, The con was a bit of a mess, if I'm being honest, and I'm definitely not the only one who thinks so. Anywho, I've rambled and ranted on long enough. If you guys listened to all that, thank you so much, but let's now get into what I got signed at the con. If you are an eagle-eyed viewer and you've seen my collection before, you may have noticed one or two of them are actually in here already. I just wanted to make the display look a little bit nicer. But let's get to the very first one. In fact, I've not really prepared it. Should have taken it out the pop protector, guys. I saw Megan Shipman. I'd met her before at MCM Comic Con London back in, I want to say October 2022. I got my La Brava 2-pack signed, and we met her again as we now have Sasha. Well, I say now have Sasha because there was a Sasha Funko Pop before, but it was the OG one where she's holding the potato. Sadly, I don't have it. But the character was actually voiced by Ashley Birch for the first 3 seasons. And then she actually left to go and do, the video game. Horizon Zero Dawn? I can't remember the entire words. I own the game, I've just never played it. You guys know what I mean. There's a picture of it, that's the game I'm talking about. And then Megan Shipman took over Sasha in the final season, and the fact that we now do have a final season Funko Pop, I was like, I'm gonna get this signed by her. Always call me Megan, she's very sweet, very talkative. I said, you're gonna have to promise to come back when we finally get these Spy Family Funko Pops, and she said, I always love to come back to the UK, please mention me to any other cons to bring me back. So she's definitely going to come eventually. I love Spy Family as well. I think she's just plays Anya so well. I mentioned to her, my favorite is when she kind of goes, oh, Papa and Mama are flirting. That just makes me laugh every time. But you guys may notice, I don't know what happened. My paint pen, if you guys can see that, I hope so, because it does look a little bit dark. It just didn't come out very well at all. Like it's almost like it's a red Sharpie pen as opposed to a Sharpie paint pen. So that's like really, really frustrating, to be honest. I got the quote, are we eating soon? She kind of says it when they escape on the blimp, and then some other sad things kind of happen. I won't say too much if you guys haven't seen it. But yeah, happy we can get this into the collection. My first ever signed Attack on Titan Funko Pop. So I mentioned her name earlier, guys. The next guest I met was Jamie Marchi. Now, I complained about my travel just a few moments ago. It pales in comparison to what Jamie had to go through. I saw her tweeting about it. I was even like thinking she may not make it, at least for the Saturday. Her first flight was delayed, so it meant she missed her connecting flight. I think she had like a 10-hour stopover in an airport. Pretty darn crazy. So she was late to the con. Like, I think she arrived sort of either like Friday night late or like early on the Saturday morning, but she mentioned she still got to have a bit of a sleep. But yeah, she literally went straight to her panel, which was at 12, and then started signing at 1 or maybe like 10 past 1. But she was in really good spirits, to be fair to her. It was lovely to meet her. I actually got 2 Funko Pops signed by her. First up here, then we have Liz from Soul Eater. I didn't go with a quote. I always kind of feel like the weapons from Soul Eater, if you've seen the show, they didn't really have too many like quotes or catchphrases, not compared to like the Meisters like Black Star, Death the Kid. I mean, well, you know what, Soul actually did kind of have his whole thing about being cool, right? But like for sure, Marco Black Star and Death the Kid all kind of had like quotes, whereas I feel the weapons like Tsubaki, Paddy and Liz, not so much. So yeah, I just went with the auto. And I also got her to sign my Mount Lady Funko Pop, my first 6-inch Funko Pop to be signed. I went with the quote, you got this, I believe in you, baby heroes. She actually did mention to me the original line, and I don't know when she says this if she means like the direct translation from the subtitle, because sometimes they do actually change the lines for the dub versions if they don't kind of match up to the mouth flaps or they don't necessarily make sense in English. And she mentioned that the original line was, I believe in you. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten now. I believe in you, kiddos. That's what she said. But they then mentioned, if the like mouth flap, if it's a bit too quick, we'll come up with something else. And they went with baby heroes in the end. And we both kind of agreed it was like a bit of a better choice because it kind of goes with the character a bit more. And then the coolest thing is she actually then just added this for me on the side. Didn't even ask for it. A little camera drawing with money shot as well. A little bit of a cheeky laugh. Cool girl. First time I'd met her. Very sweet, very funny. very talkative, even though she was probably jet lagged as hell. Yeah, it was very appreciative to meet her. And even though his queue was busy all day, guys, I did get to meet Zeno after queuing for a couple of hours. To be honest, the reason I didn't film anything was I pretty much spent most of the con queuing, which was again a bit annoying, but that's not really got so much to do with the con per se, even though the whole like queue management side was a bit dismal, as I mentioned earlier, if you guys did listen to that. But I actually had my train booked to come back to London at 5:15. The con actually did go on till 6, but I didn't want to get back super late. I didn't want to pay more as well with the later trains were like a lot more expensive. I kind of felt they would be busier as well. A lot of people probably were going to leave the con kind of at closing time. But yeah, I was in the queue. I was looking at my watch and I was like, man, I think I'm going to miss this train, because typically if you miss your train and it's your fault, you have to pay for the next train. I guess that's similar to a lot of other countries. But yeah, I did finally get to meet Zeno, literally, I want to say 8 minutes before my train, got my stuff signed, and then like bolted it to Birmingham International Station. And I'm not the fittest person, certainly not right now. So yeah, gasping on the platform, but made it with a couple minutes to spare and got my train to go home. Apologies if you guys didn't really care about that and didn't want to listen. So these are the pops I do actually have in here. I should have really prepared this, but as I said, I wanted the background to look a little bit better. So there's our first one, like that. I didn't want you guys to see this and then something else missing here. And there is the second one. Well, almost lost Komagi there. Technically, I guess this was the first one I got signed. Let's just pop it out of the protector for you guys. Throw that down there. Genya Shinazagawa, guys, from Demon Slayer. I went with the quote, I'll be the one who becomes a Hashira. I couldn't actually remember it off the top of my head. Because I was rushing as well, normally I do prefer to get 2 different kind of color paint pens. So I would have gone with a purple and maybe a white signature or vice versa. But I was kind of rushing. And to be honest, Zeno was not rushing at all. He was talking like such a lovely dude, talking to everyone, smile on his face. I mean, you could tell when I got to see him, which would have been after 4:30, he was a little bit more tired, a little less energetic than he was earlier in the morning, but he was still going, still smiling, still happy to see everyone. Such a cool dude. So I just let him kind of go with his flow here with the purple paint pen. And likewise, the same with Hawks. I probably would have gone with red and yellow, but I just let him go with the red pen. And I got the quote, my name is Hawks. I've gone already. A man too fast for my own good. I actually had several Hawks quotes. I think he had so many good lines in the anime. I couldn't really decide which one, and I went with this one in the end. He said he enjoyed the quote as well, and he has actually recorded a few episodes of this. He's not done anything on Demon Slayer. I don't know if Genya is in that Hashira training arc. I'm going to wait till all of the dub is there for both Demon Slayer and My Hero Academia. So yeah, I've probably got several weeks, if not months, before I'll see those 2 new seasons. And well, there we go, guys. Those were the 5 Funko Pops I got signed at AnimeCon UK. Again, I do appreciate you guys if you listen to me that whole rant, watch the whole video. Again, I hate to be a negative Nancy, but just wanted to kind of share those feelings, and hopefully AnimeCon UK does a lot better in the future. But yeah, that is going to do it for today's video, guys. So first and foremost, thank you so much once again for taking time out of your day to spend with me here on the Geek Lounge. It is very much appreciated. I hope you did enjoy the video. If so, be sure to give it a thumbs up and drop some comments below. If you guys did attend AnimeCon UK, what were your thoughts? What did you get signed? Let me know. And as always, we've got plenty more content on the way for you guys. Usual Funko, Lego, statues, figures, and TCGs are all incoming. I'll be catching up with my Funiversary purchases. So the Funiversary was like the big sale that Funko recently had. I bought a ton of stuff. I meant to actually get it opened up last week, but just ran out of time. So we're definitely going to be opening up this coming week. I've also got the Avatar soda cooler that I picked up in that sale. I think we're going to be opening that up tomorrow, and I'll be catching up with all the Funko Pop parcels. Well, I say parcels, it's pretty much one parcel, isn't it? This coming weekend. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that and much, much more. What is the easiest way to stay tuned, you ask? It's very simple, guys. Subscribe, hit click, smash that subscribe button and enable those notifications so you don't miss out on any of that future content. Guys, thanks again for watching today's video, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, nerds.